Hello, my friend. Today I've got a really good episode on cravings, appetite, and your cycle. I actually spoke on this to somebody else's podcast. They were creating like a fun event about a year ago, and I was asked to speak about this. And I remember getting such great feedback from the ones who had listened to it. And I thought to myself as I was cleaning out the notes on my phone, I haven't brought this on to Living in Sync yet. I think a while ago I did an episode on cravings, but let's just have a refresher, because I think if you are working towards weight loss, adding muscle onto your body, or really just trying to eat to have really great energy for your everyday activities, understanding how your cycle impacts and affects your appetite and your cravings can help you optimize and better understand your biology. So then it's not like, why am I feeling like a hangry monster even though I've eaten 3 meals and 4 snacks today? I hope it just brings you better understanding of your body, so then when you are working towards your goals, you feel like you are working with your body. So let's dig into it. Welcome to Living in Sync. This is a wellness and lifestyle podcast for ladies in their 30s. We've got a lot going on, and on this show, we're going to talk about it all. I'm your host, Joelle. If you're into health, wellness, fitness, beauty, fashion, business, career, time management hacks, organization, girl chats, goal setting, mom things, and everything in between, I hope this show supports you in whatever you need today. Let's dig into today's episode. Okay, so talking about cravings, what I want you to know, my friend, is it's not just about willpower, that you have lack of willpower. Your body does have a time where your biological cues are more sensitive. And with years and years and years of online health and fitness coaching, specifically to women, I noticed this cycle that clients would have of starting and stopping and starting and stopping and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready to get back to clean eating. I'm not feeling very good. And it would start out, be a couple weeks, and then other times it would be like, I'm a hangry monster that I cannot contain. I'm eating all of the things. I am not feeling satisfied by meals. Salads sound disgusting, whatever it is. And I started noticing this cycle happening over and over and over again. And simultaneously, I was also learning a lot about hormone health and applying it to myself. And I was noticing these things too, like, oh my gosh, there are times where I'm just feeling ravenous. And because I was learning about hormonal health, I was like, I'm going to start paying attention to this. I'm going to start paying attention to, am I feeling this way? And it's actually not inconsistent, but there's actually consistency to it. And I discovered that there was. And as I was educating myself more and more from hormonal health experts, I was like, oh, it's not just me. And then I kind of pinpointed it together that this was the same thing my clients were experiencing, but without the understanding of how hormones impact us, it feels like a cycle that is just happening spontaneously, but it's actually happening cyclically. So that's my first thing, is I want you to start paying attention to what phase of my cycle am I in? And especially when you're feeling like those hangry feelings where it's like no matter what you eat or how much you eat, you just constantly feel like you are wanting or craving certain things, and pay attention to that. For me, and we're going to talk about this a lot in this episode, it's the week leading up to your menstrual phase, which is late luteal. So about, for most of us, let me know if this is or is not true for you, the week leading up to our menstrual phase is often when we are experiencing that hangry monster that just cannot be contained. But before we get into that, something I really want to start out with is something that I want you to carry with you in the day-to-day, and it's not cycle specific. And that lesson is get back to paying attention to your hunger cues. Pay attention to when you are actually hungry, when you're actually starting to feel hungry. And then when you're eating, start paying attention to and pausing. Okay, how full am I feeling? When should I be stopping? Am I actually needing a little bit more, or am I good right here? When was the last time you really attacked, or attacked seems like a very aggressive word. When was the last time your main strategy for your nutrition was based off of your hunger cues and paying attention to your actual hunger fullness cues? I think majority of us have gotten so far away from paying attention to how we're actually feeling because we're trying to do what others tell us to do or what others have said. I did an episode for my Patreon on petite fat loss. I started following this amazing girl. I'll leave her in the show notes. She positions herself as the petite fat loss dietitian, and that's what she says she starts all of her clients with is, and I want to get her onto the podcast, so I'm going to give full credit where credit is due from really pinpointing this angle, because this is something I heard from her. I've now implemented from her. I would love for her to come on the show. She's a big TikTok creator, so I'm not sure if she's even open to coming on for podcast interviews, if she has the space and capacity for it. But hey, if you're like, hey, you should go on the Living in Sync podcast, that would be really helpful. But get back to those hunger cues and paying attention to, am I just eating at the times of the day that I should be eating? Or am I just eating because there's food in front of me and I'm at this event? Like, start paying attention to those actual hunger cues. And even when you're starting to feel hungry, or you're eating and you're starting to feel full, think of the 1 to 10 scale. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hungry are you actually? 1 being not hungry. I don't need to eat because I'm not hungry. 10 being I am ravenous. It has been way too long since my last meal. I need to eat something right now or I'm going to eat my arm off. That's a 10. And trying to, when you're getting back into understanding your hunger and fullness cues, starting to eat when you're around a 3 and stopping to eat when you're around a 7, 8. And this is something that a lot of us may have to be very intentional about and give a lot of thought, time, and energy to stopping and pausing before, during, and after eating to reflect on this midway through your meal, after your meal, before your meal. It's going to take time and intention to pause and think in this way, but it's a practice that people who don't fluctuate in weight, those people who probably are like the person who never really fluctuates in weight, the person who's never really dieting or talking about losing weight, they probably intuitively already practice this or already have instilled this way of eating, like starting to eat when you're feeling hungry and stopping when you're starting to feel full. So if you're thinking of that 1 to 10 scale again, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm at a 3, I can feel my hunger, but I'm obviously not super, super ravenous, that's when you eat. And it doesn't have to be at, 7 in the morning, noon, and 6 p.m. And it's not the same every single day. I really think just for healthy weight maintenance, paying attention to your hunger cues and paying attention to when you're hungry, when you're feeling full, when you've overeaten, when you're, just getting into that practice of paying attention to that can set a foundational level to break up with the dieting yo-yo, I can't have this, I'm going to eat in this way, whatever. Because when it comes down to it, weight loss and weight gain is, in essence, there can be other factors associated with it, but eating too much slowly will help pack on the pounds. And it was with this fat loss dietitian that I was learning from. I'm like, I'm a petite person. I'm 5'3", and I am just going to operate with a smaller BMI, smaller TDEE than my best friend who's way taller than me. And she's going to require more calories than me. And it's just something that I truly, it's my genetics. And I don't have to be mad about it. I just have to understand it and then align in that way. And so when I am now trying to lose weight with this practice of paying attention to my hunger cues, I did have to tell myself that it's okay for me to be slightly hungry. It's okay for me to end the day feeling slightly hungry, because that can trigger, and like that is my body's way of signaling I'm in a calorie deficit. Now, once again, thinking of that scale of 1 to 10, I don't want to end the day feeling like a 1, 2, 3, or even 4, feeling like really, really depleted. But if I'm ending the day and I'm like, oh, my hunger is kind of around a 5 or 6, like I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, right? And then I notice on the days where I get to the fullness of 10 or even beyond, like, oh, this doesn't feel good. I'm feeling sluggish. Like, my belly is protruding. And I'm starting then to associate just internally what that overeating makes me feel like, because I'm bringing it back to my hunger cues. There's even times where I'm standing in the pantry and, I've just gotten the kids a snack. I end up in the pantry and I grab a handful of chips, and I'll look at the chips and I'd be like, I'm literally at hunger of 0, but I have this handful of chips. And sometimes I don't even put it back, but because I've acknowledged like, oh, I'm just going to have this little handful of chips, but I'm not hungry, so I'm not going to eat anything more of that. I'm starting to build the discipline, okay? So let's go back to talking about your cravings and your cycle and paying attention and understanding this. So what is going on biologically in your body? So when you are in late luteal, so like the week before your period, and remember this about hormones. One of the misconceptions of hormones is that when you're in menstrual phase, when you're on your period, your hormones are going crazy. That is false. When you are in that phase, your hormones are at their lowest. All of your hormones are at their lowest during your menstrual phase. We're talking about the week leading up to your menstrual phase. What is happening? Estrogen and testosterone are low and progesterone is high. What do estrogen and testosterone do, and how do they impact cravings? So those two hormones help in blood sugar balancing. So if they're low in this late luteal phase, the week before your period, this means that your blood sugar imbalance and your nutrient deficiency, that you have a more sensitive blood sugar imbalance during your late luteal phase. Your blood sugar is more sensitive to spikes during this phase. Hope that I explained that clearly. When you're in the phases like follicular and ovulation, those are the ones that happen after your period, your estrogen and testosterone are getting higher, and they peak in ovulation. That is why oftentimes after your period and the 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks after your period, you don't really have cravings. You're not even that hungry. This is when I would see ladies have this, oh, I'm so ready to get back into my workout routine. I'm so ready to get back on that diet plan, because we have those hormones working in our favor. So reminding you, the week before your period, those have dipped down. What does that mean? Blood sugar imbalance, nutrient deficiencies, your metabolism speeds up, which also increases cravings and appetite. During late luteal, your body needs roughly 200 to 250 more calories during this phase, because what's going on internally in our reproductive organs takes more energy. So our body needs more energy, aka more calories during this phase. So that is the perfect storm, the perfect roundabout mix of things that increases appetite and cravings. So what can you do during this phase to nourish yourself and still stay on track with your goals, especially if one of your goals is weight loss? Main thing is prioritize blood sugar balancing meals. Eat well-rounded meals that are high in protein, fiber, B vitamins, magnesium, and zinc. And especially make sure you're taking your vitamins during your late luteal phase. But having these well-rounded, nourishing meals that do bring you to like an 8 in your hunger fullness cues on your scale of 1 to 10, having these nourishing meals that are well balanced and nutritious, that is what's going to help you feel full and satisfied while also nourishing yourself, right? And here's a bonus tip. During late luteal phase, you are often craving like the comfort foods, right? So instead of having salads, raw, fresh veggies, fruit, and things of that nature, think roasted root vegetables that are cooked, soups and stews. Those will also help be easier to digest than fresh salads during this week before your period. If you are interested in learning more about cycle syncing and nutrition and food lists and meal ideas, depending on what phase you're at in your cycle, it's actually all on my Patreon. I'm just remembering this now. I'm going to talk about it, but I was not planning to talk about it. This summer, I decided I used to have a course, the Living in Sync method and Feminine Edge, where I talked all about optimizing your fitness and your nutrition with your cycle. Since I opened Patreon, I wanted one membership where you really just got access to all of the things. So I actually put all my resources and all my videos on to my Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/livingin-sync and you become a member for $5 a month, and then you find the Living in Sync method collection within the Patreon for free, you get access to all of those resources. So I have food lists that are optimal for each phase of your cycle, meal menu ideas based on where you're at in your cycle, and it aligns this. But just keep in mind, the week before your cycle, you want to keep it easy on your digestive system, cook your foods, warm, comforting. Late luteal is very much like fall. Think like fall type foods. And that is what is supportive most for your phase. Focusing on protein and produce. So if you're like, what is fiber and how can I get more fiber? How can I get more of the vitamins that you talked about? Fill your plate with protein and produce. And you will find a lot of satisfaction in your meals. And you'll also notice that when you're paying attention to your hunger cues and you're thinking of that scale of 1 to 10, you're not going to go from 1, I'm not hungry, to 10, super, super speedy quick when you're eating well-rounded meals, high in protein, fat, and fiber. Not saying you can't have carbs. I'm just saying I think we see two skews, because I know there's like the rise of the animal-based diet and carnivore and whatnot. And I'm not saying carbs are bad. I think we just eat too many starchy carbs. And there's a well-rounded way to having both, sticking with your goals. But I've even told my husband on the days where I stick to protein and produce being the main parts of my meals, I go to bed that night and I'm like, I feel so full and satisfied. And I wake up the next morning and I feel so lean. And You guys, I'm just like you in the sense of when we got crumble cookies this weekend. I'm not saying I don't eat those things, and I know I can definitely get better because I know my weight gain has crept on because of overeating, and I'm working to course correct that, but course correct that for the long term by getting back to hunger cues, by focusing on how I want to eat so I feel really, really, really good and paying attention. Like when I eat mindlessly and I get myself to a level 10 or even to like a level 15 of fullness, I don't feel good. And I'm setting the foundation for long lasting change instead of just following a diet or following a macro plan or following something else. I'm getting back in tune with my body with this approach. The next thing is, and this was the tip that I really saw a lot of people love, and once again came from a TikTok creator. So I want to find who was the originator of this because it's kind of gone viral. So a lot of health and wellness people on TikTok are talking about this. So I'm going to find the original creator, but she talks about eat what you want, add what you need. So let's say it's the week before your period and you're like, I am really just craving these salt and vinegar chips. Or whatever it is, or a crumble cookie. Eat what you want, add what you need. So whether it's a piece of the crumble cookie or a portion of salt and vinegar chips, make like a snack plate for yourself. So eat what you want, include that, and then add what you need. Maybe have like a Chomps beef stick with some veggies, with some type of dip, and make it well-rounded, Are you craving like a little bit of chocolate? Well, have some chocolate, add Greek yogurt, add some strawberries, maybe some granola on top to add for that crunch, good healthy fats. Hopefully in the granola there's some nuts or flax seeds or chia seeds in there for some fiber. Therefore, you're eating what you want and eating what you want and adding what you need. I do this a lot of times, even when I am making dinner for my family. I know, like, say we're having burger bowls. We do this a lot in our family just because it's much easier than making a burger patty. But even if you were doing cheeseburger night, I eat what I want. I want some French fries with my cheeseburger bowl. So therefore, I'm having some French fries, but I'm also having protein, lettuce, tomato, a bunch of other pickles, some cheese, and my mouth is literally watering. That's one of our favorite foods as a family. That's my cheeseburger bowl is eating what I need because there's healthy fat, there's fiber, there's good filling foods in there. And then having what I want is having some of the French fries. So I hope that this was helpful to you in just some foundational ways to start thinking differently about the cravings that you're having and how it could be in alignment with the changes that you're going through in your cycle, because biologically we are different depending on what phase we are in our cycle. But a couple of these tips, like the eat what you want, add what you need, and getting back to your hunger cues, I don't care what phase of your cycle you're in, use those 2 tips to serve you in healing your relationship with food. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a screenshot, share it on your social media, tag me, or leave me a rating and review letting me know that these types of topics are your favorite, because I want to make episodes on things you love to hear. So if nutrition is one of those things, and like I said, I've got 2 people that I would love to have come on the show and converse with them, because I'm not in the health and wellness space of coaching people anymore. That's not my area of expertise. I'm not accepting clients in that, but I do have the resources on and in my Patreon if you want to take advantage of those. I'll leave everything in the show notes, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you loved what you heard or you want to share your favorite episode topics, please leave a rating and review. This helps the podcast growth and gives people an idea of what the podcast is all about. Something new and exciting that I wanted to share with you before we go is that we now have a Patreon page. This has replaced the Feminine Edge collective community in a cohesive place that is easier for me to manage and cheaper for you. If you are interested in our monthly classes, exclusive day in the life vlogs, Bible studies, community Q&A, and more, go to patreon.com/livingInSync and join for just $5 a month. Check out the show notes for any links or details of things referenced in today's episode, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one.